vuol dire che...
Okay, welcome back again. I'm Flaag, filmmaker and researcher, along here with Doc Marquis, and we're going to dive right into the Boston, Massachusetts bombing that happened on April 15th, 2013. And there were a state of shock and awe going around the world at that time. I mean, we see in the newspaper terror at Marathon, speaking of the Boston Marathon. And over here we see even more. After finish, bombs shatter Boston Marathon. And I think this was a bomb heard around the world, because like we discussed, this isn't something that just was a circumstance for America alone. They were people from around the world at this marathon, and it affected families around the world at that. And we got to remember the people that were involved. And the state of shock and awe, once again, was horrendous. But I think in that state of awe, we have to dig deep as a people as well, and not forget about the feelings, but we have to ask ourselves what was going on here. And as we discussed before the break, we was speaking of the Illuminati cards, and I think we need to ask ourselves right off the bat as we're bringing this material to the surface, is there anything that indicates that what happened in Boston, Massachusetts is in the Illuminati cards?
Well, the first thing for me that is apparent about the race is that, first of all, it was made up of joggers. You know, it was a marathon, right? And it's no small coincidence that there is an Illuminati card known as joggers. And as the people will be able to see on the screen behind us, if we go to the next figure, if you look at the sweatband that the jogger is wearing, what is very familiar, this symbol on that sweatband?
The Illuminati triangle, or the all-seeing guy?
The capstone itself, yes. There is the capstone, okay? And we also know that there was, if we read the card itself, it says no one ever suspects a jogger. I would posit that no one would ever suspect a jogging race.
Right.
Because that's exactly where this happened, was a complete, you know, and supposedly innocent jogger's race, but it didn't. And what's even more interesting is that if we look at the card again, it says assassination attempt. The word assassination is italicized. So you know something is going to happen at some type of jogging race.
And I think assassination indicates that this wasn't a mere accident, but it was something specific.
It was a contrived occurrence. And the timing, you know, is even just as important. But if the people will just look again at the figures behind us, you can compare the Illuminati card to the actual race itself. They both line up. You see the card and the joggers, okay? The next telling clue is another Illuminati card, and this one is called Combined Disasters. Now, with this one, Corey, if you take a look at the time on the clock itself, 2:55, isn't it? Yeah. When the reports were first coming out about the timing of the bombings, I should say, accordingly, those bombings happened anywhere from about 2:48 to about 2:58, right in that time zone, you know. That was the initial reports. And if you look at the handles of that clock, combined disasters, it reads 2:55, well within the frame. And mind you, it's combined disasters because First of all, we had the first bomb at the finish line, the second bomb about 100 yards down the road on Boylston Street in Boston, and we had that bomb or that incendiary device at the John F. Kennedy Library at the same time. And according to the reports that was given, there was 2 or 3 other bombs that had been found that did not go off. This is why it's combined disasters, and the timing is well within that time frame.
Wow. So they're even specific down to the T, so to speak, to the time that they want to do it. It's all according to this Illuminati card game.
Yeah. Now, what's as it says, it's interesting when we look at the exact time on the card, as they can see behind us on that particular figure. The timing was exactly as it should have been, right in that time zone. And you can see in this next figure, you can see the tower at the time, and you can see the 2 bombs going off accordingly. And was this some type of jihadist event, if you would?
Right.
Or an Islamic attack? And I don't want to put it like that, but let's face it, people, if you know your history, from 1973 up to this present date, there has been approximately 70 different Islamic attacks on American territory. Most people aren't aware of this, but look at that one major at that military base, an Islamic who went and started killing a bunch of people. Well, according to the politically correct spin they're putting on it, they're saying this is a work-related incident. No, this is called a murder. This man has an Islamic background, and a very interesting one at that, and a bunch of other things. We can go back to all these different events, and you can see the Islamic connection as far as jihads and everything go. And there is, very interesting enough, an Illuminati card that is called Jihad. You can see the famous Illuminati capstone with the eye of the pyramid right there. The description, you see the younger jihadist there, Joseph, with the older one wearing sunglasses, and that's Tamarin. And if we compare this card to the photo taken at the Boston bombing, you can see, again, we have a matchup.
So this is no coincidence. And let me ask you another question, Doc. In your investigation, does the Boston Marathon race, or these bombings, have you unearthed any information which may indicate that the bombings were planned ahead of time?
Well, we have to look at other events in the past to see if there's a pattern that the Illuminati use. And, from personal experience, being raised in such an occult organization, yes, I can show you the patterns and other things that's been going on. When we look at, let's say, the events of 9/11, we go through the first photo, we can see that is supposed to be Bart Simpson. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this. I'm sure a lot haven't. But if you notice, there's a 9 with the Twin Towers. 9/11. Okay? And that happened a couple of years before the event. We have another episode where, if you look right behind the man dancing with, I think that's supposed to be the mother. I'm not sure. I don't watch the show myself. You see one of the Twin Towers burning. And the most condemning ones I found, believe it or not, was the Iron Man cartoons. You can see for yourself, the Twin Towers were being destroyed. They were being attacked. And the Pentagon, the plane is hitting the Pentagon, just like the party line says it would.
Now, what's fascinating, for just a minute, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but as we're looking at these, and specifically the dates, when these cartoons were released, it was all at the time that the Illuminati card games were being exposed or being released as well.
Some of them, yes. And some of them were after the card game. The storyline continued, so everyone in the Illuminati would be aware of what was going to happen. For instance, the movie Matrix. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, but Neo's passport, it expired exactly on 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah, the same year and everything. I mean, that could be coincidental, but I don't think what is coincidental. Have you ever seen the pilot episode of Lone Gunman? It was a spin-off to The X-Files.
I don't believe I did. I'm being a major fan of X-Files. I can't remember I remember the lone gunman in the X-Files, but no, not the pilot.
Okay, well, the pilot shows a terrorist attack, that this plane was actually being driven right into the towers themselves.
Wow.
You can see the Twin Towers behind us, and, fortunately, in the storyline, it was averted. They didn't actually go through and do it. But all these things herald in advance what was going to happen at 9/11. And the Illuminati cards, when we look at, the Twin Tower and then the Pentagon, the Illuminati card, both of them, agreed with all the foreshadowing and televisions and whatever media outlet that they were using. That's what the pattern that I've been talking about.
Now that we see the indications specifically, from movies to television shows, we see this hand in glove, this perfect fit of the Illuminati's plan going on and being portrayed or I guess lived out in the world itself. And I guess another movie we need to discuss is the movie with Nicolas Cage. It stars Nicolas Cage, The Knowing.
Yes.
What was going on there?
Well, if we go by the movie, we find out that Nicolas Cage comes home, sits down, and he looks at the clock. It's 11:59 p.m. He turns on the TV, and all of a sudden it starts announcing that there's this giant oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. He looks at the clock. It's 12 o'clock. Now, there is, as you well know, I've always said this, I don't know how many times in the last 34 years, the Illuminati always leave their calling card somewhere, okay? But we'll get into that. Now, anyways, so this next figure, we find out as soon as 12 o'clock happens and he hears the announcement, he looks down at this piece of paper. Now, this is a critical piece in the movie. I've already done this in another DVD, or if you want, ladies and gentlemen, go to my website to read about this, but for now, for the sake of time, just accept that this piece of paper consists of a bunch of numbers, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. And this is what Nicolas Cage looks at. This is, this picture was lifted right from that point, because what had happened, when I first saw the movie, something caught me out of the corner of my eye. I rewound it, and bang! We take a look at this next photo. You see in the center, those 3 sixes? Yeah. 666, the Illuminati calling card. Once I saw that, I knew this oil disaster in the Gulf of Mexico was going to happen. And mind you, 13 months to the day, we see the oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico that had exploded. And do you remember this one photo here where that poor bird was covered with that sludge from the oil and everything?
Even myself looking at it, knowing a little bit that I do, when I first saw that picture, that Illuminati card, just flashed in my head. It was almost like a little photo op they had planned, and
right.
It fits to the T.
I've seen this before,
yeah.
Right? And it's not deja vu, because if we look at those 2 Illuminati cards you're talking about, this first one, That's, the multinational oil company card. And if the people will take a good look at this card, if you want to pause it, please do. Because if you look where the oil spill is on the ocean, you can see it's right at the Gulf of Mexico. And then, going by what you were just saying about that poor bird covered with that oil sludge and everything, and the Illuminati card, well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that bird and tell me it isn't the same. And look at the caption of that card, oil spill. It's a perfect fit. It is the same type of repeating pattern we're going to see. They're going to pre-announce it on the TV or on the movies or in some media form, and the Illuminati cards will agree with it.
And I just want to kind of say to the audience, I know listening to Doc, and I know where you're at because I was sitting right there and listening to Doc, and you said, well, you're talking about the Nicolas Cage movie, seeing the 666. Okay, that's nothing. But the more you learn, I mean, you're just spotting these little coincidences, I would say, or you're saying left and right. But as you go deeper and deeper, you come to the point where you have to admit there's something more going on than just coincidences of even the little things in the movies. They just fit.
Well, they're all pre-announcements, aren't they?
Right.
Now, technology has advanced, let's face it. I mean, since 1982, when the Illuminati cards were first created, we didn't even have the computer yet. We did not have the PC. But now that we do, it's interesting. If we take a look at this next one, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see pre-announcement to Sandy Hook. Because if you look at the areas that circled, ladies and gentlemen, you'll find the date is November 10th. And it says Sandy Hook Elementary, Connecticut. And of course, this is supposed to be, as I said, one of those pre-warnings to what was going to happen. But as it says, this is November 10th. This was a month and 3 or 4 days before the event itself. Now, when we go to the next one, and this is what's going to be interesting. Now, this is a page that was on Victoria Soto. Okay, she had passed away, but if you notice, she was unfortunately one of the victims,
Right.
at Sandy Hook. But if you check this carefully, this page was created 4 days before she was shot and killed. How could they have known? Let's take one here. Take a look at the date. Okay, you see her name, and you see the date, circled in red.
Right. And I think it's important for the viewers to realize, I don't know if you are a Facebook expert, but we have no control of these dates.
No.
It is exactly...
Yeah, someone has posited to me an interesting theory. They say, well, what if a person creates a site, and, now it's going to register the date of the site.
Right.
Okay? Now, some people say, well, you can wait for an event to happen. But I can see what they're saying, but to try to wait for a year, maybe just for one event to happen, and then see, I'm sorry, the explanations for that just aren't adding up. Now, I'm no computer expert. I know someone who is, and even he was telling me that those explanations don't add up.
I think the saddest part of it all is that it's not only pre-planned of the devastation that is to come, but in that case it was specific to a little girl, and she was the victim of it all.
Yeah, what's even, what really breaks my heart is who all this was pinned on was Adam Lanza.
Right.
And I do mean pinned. Something isn't adding up again to me. Now take a look. Everyone should be able to see this on the screen, right? This is Adam Lanza's Social Security Death Index. This is the death record. Now notice, according to the date, he died on December 13th. Now this is no accident, because If we go to this next site, Ancestry.com, notice they recorded he died on the 13th. Okay? Now wait a second. Sandy Hook happened next day.
Wow.
Next day. Now, I know Ancestry.com is not, part of the government like the Social Security that place is. So we have two separate entities that are recording the same fact. Adam Lanza died on the 13th. Now, we go to this next one. I use this purposely because a lot of the information people had sent me just struck me so deeply that I really couldn't create this DVD without their personal input. This is one example. Now, this is, and everyone should be able to see this. Now, let's just read along. Adam Lanza, a clumsy 20-year-old autistic kid dressed in camo and full body armor who never shot a gun before, drives to another state, gets into a locked school looking like Rambo, kills 26 people with dead-on accuracy at a school his mother, a retired teacher who no one ever heard of before, used to work in, at this place years before, after allegedly killing her with the gun that belonged to her in the first place, then takes his own life. Now, wait a second. How does an autistic boy who's never shot a gun before in his life, and then dresses up like Rambo, manages to get into a locked school now, and with deadly accuracy, kill 26 people? Now, and was autistic.
I know there's different levels of autism, but it just doesn't add up. And the saddest part is, well, the Illuminati or who is behind this, well, the fact of the matter is he died at the end. So it just seems like a convenient cover-up for whatever's going on here.
I am convinced that's exactly what we're looking at, is some type of blame game. I can't see this young man doing all this. And let me show you something here interesting. I want everyone to take a good look at the screen, because remember, his death was recorded on the 13th by Ancestry.com and that Social Security death record.
Right.
Look at what happened afterwards. What's the date now?
The 14th.
It's been changed. It's been changed to fit the storyline. That's what's happened.
And I guess not only convenient as the cover-up, but who would go out of their way to check these things? And I think that's why it's so important for even DVDs like this, is because it helps you think of certain things that normally would never even cross your mind. Because when we look at the news and we see the dates that they give us, the stories they give us, we too often automatically assume that what they're telling us is the truth. And more often than not, it's just not reliable, is it? Now, as we continue our investigation, even for the moment, on the life of Adam Lanza, I believe I'm pronouncing it right. Now, if we look at all the school shootings even going on, and some of the mass murders, so-called, in America here lately, and even the past couple of years, we hear all the time the mantra of gun control. The problems are guns. But there's another side that most people are avoiding, and that's the case of the drug-related causes and the mental, maybe, instability of these people. Now, what kind of drugs may be going on in
Okay,
these
you're talking about the pharmaceutical drug that
Right.
these poor people have been given. Well, in Adam Lanza's case, he was on Fanapt, okay? Anyone who knows anything about pharmacopoeia or anything will be able to tell you, Fanapt is known to, and especially in this poor boy's case, he was just a meek, mild little kid, right? Burnout will turn anyone into an aggressive individual, and it's also known to cause delusions. Now, with this poor boy's state as it was, can you imagine the monsters that must have been conjured up in his mind through these drugs? We also know that, I can't remember the name of that young man that was blamed for the Aurora, Colorado movie theater shooting. Also, heavy on prescriptive medicines. I checked them. Oh my goodness, those would turn you into a psychotic killer. And yet, the storyline has been changed to say, oh, it was just him. Yet, the witnesses stated that there was 2 gunmen. You know, a lot of these things are being altered, purposely so it fits the news line, especially CNN's. I mean, let's look at what's going on in Benghazi right now. How many times has the story been altered to try to fit the party line and to cover up the fact that they didn't want this information known because Obama was 6 weeks away from possibly winning his second term? Oh, remember, he said Islam, the terrorist is dead, Al-Qaeda's dead, you know, we've won, there's no more problems to face. And yet, we know Benghazi happened on his and Secretary of Defense Hillary Clinton's watch. They didn't want anything said because it would have all blown up in their face. Guess what? Al-Qaeda's not dead, the jihadists aren't dead. You guys lied, and you want us to re-elect you?
It's kind of going back to Al Gore's little famous documentary. Instead of an inconvenient lie, it's a convenient lie in this case.
Oh,
it's
yes.
a nice cover-up, and it'd be nice to, you know, erase some of the story and fudge a little story in their cases.
Little?
And get away with what you want. And this is the president we voted in, isn't it? Well,
So-
not in my case.
So you can see that there are definitive patterns going on here.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be pre-warnings. These pre-warnings will agree with the Illuminati cards, and all of a sudden we see it come to fruition.
Right, I mean, you mentioned
You
the
know?
pre-warnings. We see 9/11, the BP oil spill, the Sandy Hook. I mean, even Sandy Hook, we had the Facebook warnings. I mean, 9/11, the Illuminati card games, even in the movie descriptions. I mean, we do have advanced warnings of these things,
Yes.
don't we?
They always give advance warnings to their people.
Well then, Doc, I think you've given us a wealth of information here, and I think we need to move on from the advanced warnings. And what else may be going on with the Boston, Massachusetts bombing?
Now, there are other pieces of evidence that point to the fact that the Boston Marathon race was planned ahead of time. Now, let's take a look at this next figure here. You can see that this is another Facebook page, okay? Join Facebook, you see the date? Now, let's just go to this next one. Okay, you see how at the top it says Boston Marathon Explosion, right?
Right.
But look at the date.
March 20th. And what date again did the Boston
April
Marathon?
15th.
A
So
little
this was
advance.
about 3.5 weeks advance notice that a possible event was going to happen. Okay? Now, what's interesting is when we take a look at this one. Here we have another Facebook page. Now, look at what it says. Wait, I just want everyone to see that. Let's go to the next one. I want to show everyone what I found. It says, thoughts go out to all involved in the Boston explosions. Okay? Now, this other page, this is a different one.
Right.
They joined on Saturday, 2 days before the event. And Saturday would have been the 13th.
Wow.
And how many likes are there?
18.
6 plus 6 plus 6. How many times have we seen that used by the Illuminati in the past?
I mean, we go all the way back to the first Illuminati card game you correlated to the Boston, Massachusetts bombing. I mean, even in her own wristband, she has the capstone in her hand. So they have their calling card, I think you put it, or their signature and everything they do.
Yeah. And of course, obviously, we can see that various news organizations would be covering this event. You know, so it's all the pre-warnings, everything, including the Illuminati card, was showing this. Now, was there pre-warning in the media? You know, and this is where it gets interesting. CNN, what I call the propaganda arm of the government, you know, they've done quite a number of different lies on this story alone. First of all, they said, well, you know, the bomber, they've got him in captive and holding him, blah, blah, blah. And it was an outright lie. Even the FBI finally had to step in and tell them, you are going to retract this lie. And they had to. They were forced to finally tell the truth. No, we don't have him yet. You know. Now, there's a Family Guy episode called Turban Cowboy. This is a very damnable excerpt we're going to be going through in just a second. But once CNN had heard the truth about it, again, the propaganda arm of the government was up there saying, no, no, this is an urban myth that doesn't really exist in all this. Well, you know, I knew better. I mean, even before they made that announcement, I was all over the story the moment it happened because, well, something in it made me think. I'll get to that in a bit, but I knew, as soon as I saw that, I remembered this. I had to go. I went immediately grabbed those from one other source so that they would be preserved forever, because if you were to go on YouTube now, those episodes have been removed.
Yep, I remember when, I don't hardly ever watch CNN, but I remember when you sent me that clip of them saying, oh, that episode's not even in existence. But you did send me that clip in time of Family Guy.
Yeah, and it does exist. Now, what I want everyone to do, we're going to show you that clip now, but this is a 15-second clip. Now, what I want you to understand here, this is two parts of the same story, but the first part comes in the earlier part of that episode called Turban Cowboy, and the next part comes about 10-12 minutes down the road. They were sliced together. Now, someone put it together like that, maybe purposely to make it look like this is how it happened. No, it didn't. The first part will show you Peter is speaking to Bob Koska, and Bob's asking him, how did you win the Boston Marathon race? Well, if you watch the episode, it shows Peter veering in and out of the joggers and running them over. And that's how he won the race. Yeah. And then the next part, as I said, comes 10-12 minutes down the road, where Peter, who is becoming a member of the Islamic Jihad factions, Al-Qaeda, he's wearing a traditional Arabic outfit, and it looks like he has a fez on top of his head. He's sitting at the Drunken Clam with his friend Joe and Quagmire, and he has to make a phone call, right? And as soon as he does, you hear an explosion. And then he goes, must have been the wrong number. He does it again, you hear another explosion, and you hear people screaming in the background. 2 explosions, lots of death. Even Joe and Quagmire looking over, they're horrified, as if they see what's happened. So when you put both of them together, yeah, it looks like it could have happened at once, but it didn't. You know, it's a 15-second excerpt. Why don't we just roll that now so that people can follow along?
I'm Bob Costas, here with Boston Marathon winner Peter Griffin. Peter, how did you do it?
Phone's busted. Maybe I dialed wrong.
What we've just seen is about a 15-second clip of the show Family Guy called Turban Cowboy, is it not?
Yes.
Okay. And I have to admit, being someone who's not seen much of Family Guy, but in this case, it doesn't look good. And even though we can see the parallels, what's going on and how it really is almost in a way prophetic of what's to come, and we see the plan, but that doesn't really necessarily mean there's a correlation between the Illuminati, or are they? Are they marking their territory in this case?
Well, they do mark their territory in quite a number of ways, and as a matter of fact, let me show you and everyone else just a couple of examples how they do it. Now, I think we know by now the Rockefellers are obviously in the Illuminati, and they're so well connected it's ridiculous. Now, let me show you the Tishman building at Rockefeller Center. Okay? You see, you can see this tall skyscraper, right?
Right.
This is right at the Rockefeller Center, the Tishman building. Look at the very top right-hand side of it. That's the address.
Wow.
What does it say?
It looks like 666 from here.
Yeah, it is definitely 666. Now, go to the other side of the building. It is still 666. And no matter which way you're looking at it,
Right.
you know. And what's even more amazing is when you look at this particular building at nighttime, those 3 sixes are made out of neon lights that's about 10 feet tall, so that they glow red at the nighttime, so everyone can see this is Illuminati territory.
And I guess the question needs to be asked, what does this have to do with it? Where is this building at?
This is in New York.
In New York.
Yeah, where the Twin Towers were destroyed.
Wow.
Now, let me give you another example. I believe it was last year, the year before, excuse me, something like that, where the United Nations, one of the front organizations of the Illuminati, celebrated their so-called 60th birthday. I want you to take a good look at this next one. Ladies and gentlemen, watch very carefully how the Illuminati set this up. It says 60, right? You can see Condoleezza Rice in the orange and a bunch of other representatives. But look at how this was photographed. So you can see the 6, the 6, and the 6.
Wow. I mean, they're calling cards just, for lack of a better word, calling out, isn't it?
Yeah, it's screaming out because remember in the movie Knowing, let's take a look at this again. I knew the event was going to definitely happen because I saw the calling card. I know how they mark their territory. So once I see if it's one of their trailblazers, shall we say, bang, I know it's going to happen. This is just how it works inside of the Illuminati. I was there for, as I said, 20 years. And I learned, of course, all the different stuff I was supposed to, just like anyone else who was going through the ranks. But since my family had been in it for since 1789, I had 200 plus years worth of other stuff about the Illuminati I was being taught to me by certain family members. I'm talking secrets, names, people, dates, places that most people in the Illuminati would never hear of because they weren't as well connected as my family. So I got to learn a lot, and this is just not even scratching the surface, but this is just one of the many calling cards you will see.
So is this all the calling cards is correlating to this time, or what else do you have for us here?
Well, let me show you something interesting. To prove that this is a calling card, let me show you something here. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to follow this very carefully. You will note here is a map that was in the newspaper that related to Boylston Street in Boston. Now I know this area very well because I lived about 30-40 minutes down the road from it, and I know right over here in this area is Copley Square. I know that area. And this will show you where the finish line was and where the first bomb exploded and the second one, okay? And we find out it was approximately 600 feet away. I'd like to measure it exact to see if it was 666 feet myself. Wow. But when we look at this next one, you can see this is where the runners were when they were passing, you know, these buildings and they were approaching, you know, the finishing line, you know, right before the bomb exploded. Now, you will see from this vantage point where the finishing line was, you see that first red squiggly circle, that's where the first bomb is, and you can see it's completely identified as Boylston Street, as I stated. The second one was right here. And you can see on the photos on the left-hand side where the explosions had occurred. Now, here is where the second bomb was supposedly dropped. This was right before the bomb exploded. Now, just bear in mind, see this person up on the roof? Just put that on the back burner for now, but just remember that guy. Now let me show you something really interesting here. That's the long view of the first and the second. You notice the tower in the back, just like combined disasters, wow. Right? And here we have a nice aerial view. You can tell by the church building down here in this area, at the crossroads, where the finishing line would be. Now, let me show you the calling card. Here is Google Map. Do you see the finishing line right here in yellow?
Yeah.
What's the street number and address?
666 Boylston Street, Boston, Massachusetts.
666 is where the first bomb exploded.
Wow. I mean, they have it pinpoint to the T, don't they?
Now, this is I verified my facts, as it says, I know this area, and so I Google mapped this just to make sure. Now, I jumped online after that, and as you can tell by this map here, it shows that the area of where the Boston Marathon was held. Now, just to show you, here's the page that I did a word search on, you know. I put in 666 Boylston Street, and you can see this was on April 15th. As I said, I was jumping all over this. And you can see 666 Boylston Street. A lot of people, I'm not sure if CNN would have said this. They could have if they saw it, but a lot of people say, no, that address doesn't exist. There's no such thing. It's right there.
Wow.
You can reference this on the web. It's right there at the left-hand corner of the page, 666 Boylston Street, Boston, Massachusetts.
And like you said, this is a piece of information that was conveniently left out of mainstream media.
Oh, mainstream media is going to avoid all the heavy facts and evidence, just like they've been doing with Benghazi.
Right.
Only now I think it's after Fox has been reporting it for about, I don't know how many weeks now. I know that they were the only ones going on it, but I just saw the other day CBS is finally saying something about it. Now, of course, I believe it was the New York Times that was trying to say this is just a political attack. No, this is not a political attack or something, people. No, people are dead. It's not a partisan issue, it's a moral issue. Orders were given so that our troops could not reach the people at the embassy in Benghazi on time. 4 people were murdered, and orders came from very high above. It's only at the top level that those orders could have been given. You know, stand down, you're not going to go anywhere, do anything. Someone in a very high political position did it. And the only two I'm aware of at this point that could have pulled something like that off would have been either Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama. Now, I'm convinced at this point that somehow they're going to blame their underlings. So, it bounces off them like Teflon. But already, those 3 of those witnesses who came forth to testify at the hearing, one of them has already been demoted. Yeah, they're risking their entire political career because they dare to stand up and tell the truth.
Now that you've mentioned that we perhaps could be going through some sort of zombie apocalypse with the lady from the Sandy Hook connection to the Boston bombing, apparently dead before, now showing up. I mean, this is awkward to say the least. I mean, how can you explain something this? Is she dead or alive? I mean, it's sad and tragic, but there's some questions that need to be answered from the media that are promoting these manipulative lies, I would say. But besides her, the principal, I mean, is there any other figures or group that seems strange in this scenario?
Oh, there's quite a number. Let me just give you one example right now. Follow this along, ladies and gentlemen, if you please. We take a look at this next figure here, okay? These are men, if you notice, they're carrying black backpacks, right? These men here, okay? Now, let's go to the next photo so everyone can follow along. If you look at the baseball cap the guy on the top left is wearing, you can see it's a skull, the death skull.
Right.
This is a symbol of a civilian, a private now, military group known as Kraft. And their logo is, no matter what your mother may say, violence does solve problems. And now take a look right here, the guy on the right. You see that white square there on his backpack? Just remember that. And here is one of the bags that has been identified by the FBI as carrying one of those pressure cooker bombs that have the ball bearings and nails in it. Right. Okay. And you can tell, if you look at the guy in the forefront on the right, the Kraft logo. And here they are in practice. Okay. What are these people doing at the Boston bombing marathon race wearing black backpacks if they weren't invited there to begin with? I mean, they could be there, you know, just as observers like anyone else. But I didn't hear anything about them being called up. I mean, why would they have been called up? It was just going to be a race. Unless someone knew something was going to happen.
They wasn't there just to be innocent bystanders.
I think something else is going on here, because one thing that the news did report, and I personally think, now this is my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, if I say it's my opinion, it's my opinion, there's no way of proving this one way or the other. So, there was an event going on at the White House the same time the bombing was going on, or supposedly an event. Let me show you. According to the television news station, and again, notice this is CNN. Yeah. They're stating here, breaking news, suspicious substance and letter to Obama. And this suspicious substance is, now I want you to notice that this is a hazardous material response team on the truck. Now, and you see the report in front of the White House. Now, supposedly, Now, this next photo is going to show you what's known as ricin. Okay, these are beans of a sort, but you get the substance, the ricin itself. You see the full bloom of a flower here. It's a very toxic substance, okay, and it looks white, just like chalk or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they were making a big deal of it, right? I think this was purposely done to try to make it look as if the White House and the government had nothing to do with what was going on at Boylston Street in Boston, because look, we're under attack of ricins, people sending poison stuff to us. Wait a second. Your common person may have fallen for that, but the truth of the matter is, I think it was about 10, maybe a dozen years ago at the most, 10 to 12 years. Do you remember when all those envelopes were arriving at the White House and the Capitol, and they had anthrax in them, the powder? Mm-hmm. Right. Ever since that time, the mail does not go directly to the White House or the Capitol. It goes to a different building where everything is inspected first.
Wow. But what was CNN saying?
Yeah. How could CNN mislead us believing the White House was receiving these ricin-filled envelopes if they don't go to the White House to begin with? They go to some other place where they all be opened up and inspected first.
I think that proves the American short-term memory.
Yeah.
But as you're saying, even with the government, the White House, and the Boston correlation, I can't remember what we were discussing, but this is the old magician's hand trick, is it not? Focus on the right hand while the left is...
Exactly, and that's what they were doing here.
Yeah.
Because the bombings were going on, they were going to try to distance themselves from being accused by trying to make it look like they were being victimized also.
But they ended up using one lie to cover up another lie.
Well, again, there is a very strange connection going on here, as we were just talking about with Sandy Hook. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to that one photo of Dawn Hochsprung, that principal. Now, as I said, I don't understand how she can be showing up in the news again at Boston, and as you saw the captain read, she was right by the explosions, supposedly.
Now that we've witnessed, or we're just beginning really to scratch the surface of even the connection between Sandy Hook and the Boston, Massachusetts bombing, but there's one, I think, instance that really sets everything apart and starts to really open your eyes that something else is going on here, and maybe, or I think it's beyond maybe, that there's a false flag operation going on here. What do you have for us?
The one thing that made me stop looking into Boston immediately was the photo of Jeff Bauman. Now, let me show you this photo here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before I do, if you have any kids, now, I'm going to show you a series of photos. I'm going to show you one here, but as we go along in this section, I'm going to show you a series of photos that's going to appear to be very grisly and gruesome. They're not real. I'm going to tell you right now, none of it is real. But I don't want the children to be there because the children just might think it's real, and I don't want to scare them. I want to show the adults the facts of what's going on. This is going to be a lot of well-staged actors that look like they have real injuries, but they don't. But just in case, if you have small kids there, please pause it here. Have them play out, play outside, play a game or something. Just don't let them watch this, okay? Now, let me show you that one photo that convinced me beyond anything else something is going on here. Now, here's that famous photo of Jeff Bauman, as I was saying. And everyone should remember how they was talking about and interviewing the cowboy guy who was helping him and all this. Well, these photos, I mean this particular photo here, that shows Jeff's legs being blown off, it's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. Let me explain why. First of all, and I'm going to show you an illustration here. In your legs, and notice where the arrow is pointing, that is what's known as the femoral artery, and the one on the other side, that's what's known as the external iliac artery. Those are two major blood-carrying arteries now, okay? And if we go back just for a split second and look at Jeff Bauman, he should be gushing out blood all over the place. He has a femoral artery and an external iliac artery in both legs. So there should be 4 arteries that were just literally torn to shreds because of the shrapnel. Yet, there is absolutely no bleeding to be seen. If what had happened was true, in the first minute, Jeff would have lost half of his blood. Okay? If he's not given blood immediately, intravenously, I mean immediately, after that first minute, I guarantee you within the next minute or two, he'd be dead.
Right.
That's it. Okay? Now, he seems to be fine. Second point. Now, because of the injuries to his legs, he should not have been put in a wheelchair. Any person in medicine will tell you he should have been put on a gurney and the legs elevated to stop the blood from gushing out. This guy literally should be bleeding to death. I mean, gushing. And yet, they didn't put him on a gurney to keep the blood from flowing out. You know, the legs needed to be elevated. Plus, they needed to keep as much blood in him, if this is real, because his brain wouldn't be receiving the oxygen and blood it needed, and so within minutes, 5 minutes usually, his brain would start going through a death-like state. But nothing like that has happened. Nothing so far here makes sense. Well, wait, let me show you something else. Supposedly, when we look at Jeff's legs here, right? Again, as I said, he should be gushing blood all over the place. Now, look under the wheelchair, Corey. Can you see even just one drop of blood on the ground?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm no medical doctor, but as a filmmaker, and even doing short films, one thing I'm prone to do is focus on the details.
The details.
And as we look at the ground here, where is the blood?
Well,
something's not adding up.
Underneath the wheelchair, in front of the wheelchair, and behind the wheelchair, there is no blood to be seen. None. And if this guy was supposed to have been, the blood isn't flowing because of tourniquets,
Right.
look at where the tourniquet is. That tourniquet is on the ground right by the wheel. So, I'm sorry folks, his blood supposedly was not being stopped by tourniquets because that one on the ground is just on the ground, which means one of the legs should be gushing blood. And yet, there's absolutely nothing there, medically speaking, that's pointing to the fact he should be bleeding to death.
Right.
Now, look at the bone that's sticking out. Okay? That's what's known as the tibia bone. Now, remember, his injuries, his so-called life-threatening injuries, were caused by shrapnel, metal flying all over the place. Now, I have never once seen, let alone heard of, a person being hit by shrapnel and have, if you look at the bottom of that tibia, blow this up, ladies and gentlemen, if you need to, but at the bottom of the tibia bone, it's a perfect, straight, sliced, and smooth cut. I mean, it looks like someone just, took a razor and just cut straight through. Now, medically speaking, that's impossible. Shrapnel fragments. That bone should be fragmented. That's a perfect, straight, smooth cut. I've never seen that. That's not even possible when we're talking with shrapnel. Now, I have received literally hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of emails from around the world. New Zealand, Australia, England, France, Japan. I've got a couple from Korea and from a couple of places I've never even heard of, and I thought I knew it well. And these emails were from doctors, nurses, RNs, LPNs, EMT, paramedics, trauma surgeons, nurses who work in the emergency room every day, all this. I've been receiving hundreds and hundreds of letters from around the world from other people in the medical profession who tell me my diagnosis of this one photo is spot on. There is no way Jeff should be alive, let alone in this condition. And this is not just me, as I said. This is from hundreds of other medical personnel, doctors, nurses, paramedics, people who work in the emergency room. All of them are saying the same thing I'm saying. That photo is wrong.
And this is the poster.
The poster child for the Boston bombings.
One person we started to focus on earlier was a man, is the poster child of what's going on in Boston. His name is Jeff Bauman. Now, Doc mentioned his medical background and what was going on, and he even mentioned that there was hundreds really involved, and really backing up what you're stating,
Yes.
that what is shown in this really poster of what happened, this picture of Jeff Bauman, isn't medically possible.
It isn't.
But let's take a little further look. What else can you show us that really back up this idea?
Right. Let me show you some other evidence I have gathered that will not only show, medically speaking, all this is a lie, but at the same time, I'm going to show you how all this has been staged. It's a false flag event. Let's begin with this next, well, first of all, let's go to Jeff Bauman. Again, as it says, the one telltale sign, ladies and gentlemen, he should be gushing all over the place. And if he is in the bad shape that will let to bleed, why is there not even one drop of blood on the ground?
Right.
I mean, that's ridiculous. Now, what I want you folks to do, we're going to take a look at this next photo here. You can see, this is just maybe a split second or two after the bomb went off, right? Now, now I'm going to show you the same photo. See the oval red around it. Mm-hmm. The guy at the bottom, towards that oval, that's Jeff Bauman. Now look at the lady, a lady right here, towards the center of it. She's a black lady. She's right below the guy at the top with the baseball cap. You can see her face right there. Mm-hmm. Concentrate on those three people now. We're going to go to the next photo. Now, I want you to notice, ladies and gentlemen, again, this is just maybe a split second or two right after the bomb went off. Let's take a look at this circled area. Look at Jeff's legs. Do you see any injuries there?
No, nothing.
There's nothing. Nothing. Now, just remember, the black lady is in between Jeff and the guy in the baseball cap. In other words, it's almost as if she's blocking everyone's view from something. Mm. That's what it appears to be. Now, let's get to this next photo. Again, you can see all the dust and everything from the explosion and such. Now, take a look at this area I just circled here. It's only now, if you look at about the 7 o'clock position, you can see Jeff's kneecap, and now you can finally begin to see there was an exposed tibia bone there. Mm. Take a good look at that bone. Do you notice any blood?
None.
How is that possible? The explosion just happened. He should be gushing blood because there was in a tourniquet. Again, medically, I don't understand how this is possible. But let's move on. Here we have the next photo, okay? Let's take a look at the next one in the circled area. Now, you can see that the knee and the rest of the lower extremity of that leg is at an angle, correct?
Right.
Pointing down towards us. If that leg is genuine, I mean, if that's a genuine wound, blood should be pouring down the leg because it's elevated. Because there's no tourniquet on it. Do you see any blood pouring down?
No.
There's nothing. Nothing. We go to this next one, and if you notice, before we do, you see how the leg is resting against that black lady's hair? Now watch this next one, and you can see it's higher now, on top of the lady. Let me circle this for you. It's higher. It's almost by her forehead, right? Now look at how, right underneath that black lady's chin, part of her dress is white, correct?
Right.
Why isn't there any blood on that because of Jeff's leg? If that's a genuine injury, that leg is resting all but on top of her. The blood should be soaking down her brow, or at least on top of that white bib-looking thing on her dress.
It's just amazing as we look at these pictures of how far they're willing to go to try and cover up something.
Well, let me show you just how far I think this is going, because before we move on to the next photo, mind how long that tibia bone is, okay? And in this next photo, it got shorter. Let me circle it for you now. Notice how the bone itself is shorter. It's almost as if, I think what happened, because again, first of all, look at the photo. The bone got shorter. It's beyond the lady's forehead. It's just, the leg is just about resting on her face now, and yet there's no blood on her face or brow to be seen, and the blood is not gushing. And it should be, if that's genuine, because there's no tourniquet stopping the blood from the femoral artery and the external iliac artery. Now, I think what happened, and this is speculation again, but the medical facts are what they are. I think what happened here, in that original photo, where you first see Jeff, then the black lady, then the guy in the baseball cap, I think the lady, the black lady, positioned himself purposely in between both of them so the guy in the baseball cap could attach these false prosthetics.
Wow.
If false prosthetics makes a lot more sense than what we're supposed to be seeing here.
Okay, now picking up where we left off with Jeff Bauman, we've been looking at the overwhelming evidence through these pictures that it must have been and it had to be a forgery because it's not medically possible. As we looked at photos just split seconds after the bombing itself, and I mean, I think the evidence just speaks for itself. And why don't you present us with the next photos?
Okay, now let's remember there was Jeff Bauman, a black lady, and a guy in a baseball cap that was involved in that scene, that acting scene,
Right.
that part of the play. Remember these three people, because it's going to get even more interesting. These people really get around like poor Don Hawksbum and those police officers. But if you remember, look in the center of this photo here. As a matter of fact, let me just again circle this. First of all, you see the same black lady in the red circle, almost dead center. Remember the guy with the sunglasses and the baseball cap?
Right.
Notice how he's to the right of her. He's very relaxed now. He's in another place. He's relaxed, and look at her. Look at that black lady. She has repositioned herself in a pool of blood. Now, we're going to take closer photos here, but just remember this for now. Now, look to the left-hand side. You'll see that greenish yellowish circle. That's the guy in the cowboy hat. You can see his hat there in his hand. That was wheeling Jeff Bauman. You know, but these people now have been repositioned. Well, we've got to get to another part of the play. You know? Let's move on. Let's take a look at what's going on. Take a look here. Now, first of all, as you can see, this appears to be, at first, a grueling scene. You know? Yeah, let me show you the medical reasoning here. Let's go to the next one where we'll just circle it. Notice the blood on the ground. That is the incorrect color for blood that's been exposed to the air. That should be a dark maroon color. That's not fresh blood. That's been there too long. It should be dark. It's not. Second, notice our friend over here at the 10 o'clock position, Jeff Bauman. Now, look at that exposed tibia bone. Is it me, or did that get longer before? Now it's longer. Again, look at the wound. Both legs, there is no gushing blood. And there should be, because neither leg has a tourniquet on it. And if this guy really is in a life-threatening situation, why is no one helping him here?
Right.
Everyone else, this one guy, notice the guy with the yellow sleeve at about the 9 o'clock position. There's a guy, there's a lady lying on the ground. She has no apparent major injuries whatsoever. Okay, if we move up to about the 10 o'clock position, you see that guy that looks like it's in some type of military shirt or top.
Right.
There's no major injuries that I can tell, yet there seems to be one or two people helping him. At the 2 o'clock position, you see that guy lying down with the sneakers. He has a couple of tears in his blue jeans, but that's about it. Yet it seems there's a couple of people around him. Why is it Jeff's the only person that no one's helping? This guy has the worst injury in a triage situation, and I know triage. He would be the first one we would have been taken care of.
And no one's around him.
Yeah, he's the last one. No one even, and the blood, as it says, is all fake.
Wow.
Yeah, no gushing of blood, and this is before the wheelchair now. There's no tourniquet, so he should be gushing from 4 major arteries now. Okay, let's move on to this next one. Remember that black lady who sat in the pool of blood? Yeah, she didn't have a drop of blood on her before, when she was in between Jeff and the guy in the baseball cap. Now all of a sudden, and let's circle this, she suddenly appears with all this blood on her. And if you go by her eyeballs, oh my goodness, she's in a complete state of shock. Now wait a second, how did this happen? She was fine during the bombing itself.
Yeah.
This is an after photo.
And she was just laying in a puddle of blood, calm and collective.
Yeah, she just calmly got into the blood, got it all over her, so that this next part of the scene could be played out. Now it's interesting, if we look at the bottom of the screen, almost towards the left, now this may be a coincidence, or maybe this is divine intervention, but notice how it says, Firehouse Subs, and right below it, well done. I think that God might be, or someone saying, well done, the acting job is fooling everyone. But yeah, look at that.
And just what you said, I think that's the key. They fooled so many people.
But they weren't counting on other photographic sources being there. Now, what I'm going to show you next, let's just remember, those 3 police officers, remember I showed you that there was a connection between, you know, Don Hochsprung literally has sprung up out of the grave and appeared in Boston.
Right.
And these guys who are also in Sandy Hook, let's go to the next photo, have also sprung up in Boston, right? Now, this one is just floors me. This one is beyond the pale. I can't even begin to imagine how anyone could have missed this one. The lady on the left is the shooter's mother's friend. You know, in other words, Adam Lanza's mom.
Right.
Now, she was at the Sandy Hook shooting event in, you know, back in 2012. She appears as an eyewitness at the Boston bombing on April 15, 2013, and she appears again as an eyewitness in Watertown not even a week later. And in these last 2, she was being interviewed once again by CNN. Now, when we look at the photos, it is the same person, and I can prove this. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the chin. The chin is a perfect match in all 3 photos. You can see how it's roundish. The jawline is a bit angular in the front where it sinks a little and then goes all the way back. It's the same thing with the middle one, how it sinks in a little and then goes all the way back. Same thing with the last one. Notice in all 3 cases, the ladies all are wearing glasses. Same thing in all 3 photos. This is the same person. This is another person that gets around more than I know what to do with. First, she's identified in Sandy Hook. Then she's in Boston. Now she's in Watertown. Again, CNN, definitely in the last 2.
Wow.
I mean, this makes no sense at all. But I want to throw that in there so you could see how the Boston events and certain other events are connected. But in our next section, I want to show you a little bit more evidence as to how I am convinced. Through the photograph, you're going to see how I am absolutely convinced, why I should say, I'm convinced this is another false flag event. Okay, let me show you folks something else that will prove that this again has been a staged event. We already just went through Jeff Bauman, the black lady, and the guy in the baseball cap. We saw how Jeff Bauman's legs supposedly severed, you know, and blown off by these pressure cooker bombs. We saw how medically it's not possible that those were genuine wounds. And hundreds, literally hundreds and hundreds of other medical people around the world have agreed with me on this. They've examined the photos, they said it's not possible. Plus, we also saw before and after photos of Jeff Bauman's so-called injury, and then we saw that same black lady and the guy in the cap, you know, but he had a hoodie and everything else. That right after, you know, that event, they went to the next scene and, you know, they made it look as if, oh, we're injured also. I'm going to take you to another section right before the finish line to show you where something else was staged. Ladies and gentlemen, take a good look at this next photo here. Now you can see this is a scene where someone lying on the ground on the cement there on that walkway appears to be injured, and there's this guy here and a couple of other people around him appear to be helping him. But no one is paying attention to the guy in the back. Now, let me show you. I'll circle this guy in red. This is a guy we need to pay attention to. If you notice, on our left-hand side, there was a white bag that he is holding. And you can barely see another one that he's also holding on his right-hand side, okay? Now, in this next photo, you'll see the 2 bags, the 2 white bags are very prominent. Now, what most people haven't been paying attention to, and we're going to look at the same photo, we'll circle it again. Look at the same guy with those two white bags. He is now screaming. Okay? This screaming is not because he's in pain. This is a signal. It is definitely a signal. Question is, a signal to what? Watch what happens in this next photo. The same guy has taken those two white bags he was holding in his right and left hand, and he slammed them together. Take a look in the photo. You can see both white bags, they're being literally slammed together. Now take a good look to those people who was helping that guy on the ground, okay? There's nothing there. I mean, in other words, it's a clear picture, right?
Right.
Now, pay attention to this guy here, who's in the furthest part of the scene towards your left. It's a tall guy with, he appears to have little if no hair, dark jacket or something. Notice how close he is. Now, notice the guy that's in the forefront of the picture. He's bending over, he has no shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, pay attention to what's going to happen next. Now, what I want you to notice, I'm going to circle all this again. The guy in the back, the bald guy, has moved away. The guy, shall we say, in the bottom red circle, has turned his head. And if you look to the guy right above him, this guy is turning his head away also. The question is why? If you notice, there is suddenly a dust bomb, or a lot of dust, that appeared out of those two bags when they were slammed. This dust is supposed to be covering everyone there to make it look as if it's the sort of dust debris you would expect from one of those bombs going off.
Wow.
Yeah. Because, let's back up 2 photos. There's no dust there, correct?
Right. I mean,
But, and you see, notice how the guy now has slammed those 2 bags together?
mm-hmm.
Right. Now, we go forward those 2 photos, and you see what happens once he slammed those bags together.
And at one point you see this evidence, this overwhelming evidence, and you come to the point where you just don't know what to say anymore. And I guess a question that I have for you, Doc, and I'm sure the people here have heard that there was something else going on. Were there bomb sniffing going on even before all this was
there
taking
were
place?
so many other things going on, and we don't hear this reported on CNN and certain other news station. Let me show you this newspaper article here. And mind you, this is not one of your, like New York papers or any of the biggies, no. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look towards the left-hand side of this paper, read the big caption, Boston Marathon runner. Police said Boston explosions were training exercise. And if you were to read the article itself, this gentleman, now this is at the bottom of the page, bottom left, he said they kept announcing to runners not to be alarmed that they were running a training exercise. Yeah, and he also said, just like others, that there were bomb-sniffing police dogs there. And once again, let's let the photo speak for itself. Look at this next photo. There are the bomb-sniffing dogs.
And this just happened to be going on at one of the biggest marathons in
Oh,
America.
yes, I'm sure that in one of the largest marathon races in the world. Now, the Boston Marathon, if I remember, is only smaller than the one in London. The one in London, England, I believe, has about 20,000. This one has close to 13. So this makes it either the second or the third biggest race in the world. And so they're going to try to convince me with tens of thousands of runners, oh, well, we're going to run a bomb exercise at the same time, as if there isn't enough chaos going on. This doesn't make sense. The story does not fit the facts.
discussing the Fourth Amendment, it protects us from being violated by the government, for them to trespass on our land, and it helps us to protect ourselves. Am I right? In this
Yes.
basic technicality. But we see now, even specifically, staying on topic with the Boston, Massachusetts bombing, we see our rights being violated through what's going on.
Well, let me show you what really happened. You know, as you pointed out, the Fourth Amendment, as you know, that people can see in this photo here, guarantees the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. In other words, they can't set foot on your property unless they've got a search warrant and it's got to state specifically what they're looking for. Now, remember how I told you my premise, and I am convinced I am right, that all this was nothing but staged events under the auspices of the Illuminati to measure a martial law event against a civilian population. Let's again let the photos show the evidence. Here we have a scene in which a SWAT team, a Boston SWAT team now, has literally, they were going to people's houses and just banging on the door one after another, you know, screaming at them and showing, you know, their rifles and literally just scaring the people to death, okay? And if we take a look at this next photo, you will see a gun turret. Now, this person inside the house was filming this guy, this soldier in that gun turret, taking dead aim at him.
Wow. I mean, that had to be one scary. I can't imagine just going to your bedroom window, maybe in this case,
Yeah.
and someone in a tank-like vehicle pointing a gun straight
Right
at you.
at, and that guy, with that type of weapon, he looks like he's a sniper of sorts.
Yeah.
And look at all the other soldiers and police SWAT teams in the neighborhood.
And notice how they're parading in people's yards. I mean, that is their...
They don't care what they're doing. I mean, and in this next one here, look at the SWAT team just taking deadly aim at these people, their property, and everything. And again, in this next figure, look at how the police are just on that person's stairway, the
just the porch of the home.
porch, everything. Now, and this one here just breaks my heart. Look at this next photo, and I'll show you in the photo after this one. But this lady is on the verge of tears. They're screaming at her to get out of her house, and they don't even allow her the decency to put on socks or shoes. Look at her. She is barefooted.
I mean, as men viewing this, I mean, the women we're supposed to be protecting them, not scaring the daylights out of them.
Well, as I said, let's look at this next one. You can tell that same lady, she looks like she's still on the verge of crying. The poor thing. She's barefooted. And if you look at this guy, three people behind her, the elderly gentleman with the glasses, he's also barefooted.
Wow.
They didn't even let this senior citizen the decency of covering his feet, you know, in socks and shoes from the elements. And this one, oh my goodness, this one just enraged me when I first saw it. This father, first of all, look, again, no socks, no shoes, and look at his feet. They're filthy from having to run in the dirt, through the grass, and who knows what else. And his poor little daughter that he's covering, she was not allowed to be properly covered or anything, neither her feet nor the rest of her. This is just heinous and reprehensible as far as I'm concerned. I mean, and as I said, you can see the people were being terrorized. And this is what the Illuminati was gauging. Just how much control could they exercise in a martial law incursion?
Now, before we go too far, can we go back? I mean, what is it? What was really going on with the gentleman we seen with the black backpacks? Can we go back and explain that to me, please?
Joker.
Right.
Okay. If we look at this photo here, this was Joker Sano when he was at large. This is a photo that they was flashing. Now, he was actually caught because, we look at this next photo, this was taken at a convenience store in Watertown the day he was captured. Okay? Now, that's, as it says, Joker. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Again, the story is not matching the facts. Here is a camera footage, one of those, you know, you'd see on the streets of Boston everywhere. You can see time-lapse photography because of the shadows and such. If you look at the first one at the top, that's Joker's brother. I can't remember his name. But, okay, this is the elder brother. I'll think of it in a bit. Tamerlan, that's his name. Tamerlan Sarna, in the left-hand top, top left, okay? Look towards the right now, and you can see Joker. Right. Now, look at the bottom left, and you can see Tamerlan standing there with a black backpack, right? Look to the right at Joker. What is the color of the backpack he's carrying?
He's carrying a white tannish.
It's white, but that's not possible. We were told constantly and repeatedly it was two black backpacks.
Wow. So this isn't adding up. Just, I mean, we have photographic evidence here that he doesn't have a black backpack.
Let's take a look at another one, and you'll see Joker, that is a white backpack he's carrying.
I mean, even their setup and their framing and what they're reporting doesn't add up.
No, none of it is making sense. Now, the only people on the premise that had black packs were those members of Kraft. They were the only ones. The Boston police weren't carrying. We've seen plenty of photos of them. The only ones that were carrying the black backpacks. Now, take a look at this in the next photo. This is one of them that exploding. The straps and everything matches the ones the Kraft members were carrying all along. Now remember, if they were there just for, you know, observation like any other person, you know, who was visiting and watching the race, they wouldn't have needed those backpacks, would they? Every single member. No. And they're the only ones that had black backpacks.
Now, in these backpacks, just to further the evidence, there was a piece of tape, as we mentioned earlier, on these black packs. And it seems like, even viewing that evidence, it shows back up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. Now, it's even more interesting. Now, there was a book. It's called American Sniper. Let me show you. It was written by Chris Kyle. He was a Navy SEAL and considered the most lethal sniper in existence. This guy had more kills than you and I would know what to do with. Okay? What is interesting, it was Chris Kyle who created and put together the crack team. Okay? Remember, you saw them in action, practicing and everything. This is because of him. This was all put together by him. He was the #1 sniper you could possibly come up with. No one had as many kills as he did. Now, what's interesting, him and a friend, about 2 months before this had happened, the Boston Marathon race, he and a friend took a soldier who just recently came back from the war, who they said was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, which means, gee, they've got him on drugs also. Right. And while they were taking him on the range, this young man opened fire and killed both of them. Now, how someone like that could get the jump on someone like Chris is beyond me. This is the #1 sniper you could possibly think of. But we have to also remember, this guy would have been heavily medicated also. Now, as I said, this is Chris in his uniform. You can see by his patch on his arm that is the Kraft logo, and the same thing with the soldier next to him. This was his baby.
I think it's very important to go a little bit further into this Chris Kyle and his relation, and how his, like you said, his baby was the Kraft. What did he have to do? What was his fate?
Well, you see, Chris, along with a friend, had taken this soldier who just got off the field, who was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and they decided to bring him to a rifle range to help him recover. Now, why you bring him to a rifle range to help him recover is beyond me. You know, I mean, medically speaking, that doesn't make sense. I mean, the guy, yeah, he's in shock because of all this war stuff, and they're going to take him to a rifle range?
Let's shoot something. I mean, it doesn't add up.
Yeah. But what does add up is this same guy, the PTSD guy, would have been heavily drugged, just like Adam Lanza and the others. And he somehow took out Chris and the other man who was with him. He took out the #1 sniper in the world and killed him. How, I don't know. How you get to drop on someone like this is beyond me, but the fact remains, or at least this is what we're told, they took a guy with post-traumatic stress disorder to a rifle range to help him feel better, while this guy would have also been on medication, and somehow he took out the #1 sniper in the world along with his friend. Now, this is what we're supposed to believe. Just remember that. Now, you remember how I said this was all a false flag operation?
Yeah.
Now, people say, well, there's no such thing, these things go on. This is just a term, you know,
Conspiracy.
yeah, conspiracy people come up with. Well, you know, have you ever heard of Operation Northwoods?
I've just heard the title of it. I have no idea what it is.
Let me show the documentation for everyone to see. This is a memorandum for the Secretary of Defense. Okay, this was, now mind you, look at the subject here. Justification for U.S. military intervention in Cuba. You see, this was back in 1962 under the Kennedy administration. Cuba, as you well know, was just recently taken over by Fidel Castro and his other communist buddies, right? Well, go through this document very carefully, and what you're going to discover is that the Joint Chiefs of Staff and others were going to set up a false flag event. What they were going to do is create an event in Cuba to where they would be called upon to, you've got to rescue us, so that they would come in with the troops and stop the total communization of Cuba and get rid of Castro. Now, if you remember, there were other operations that was designed to execute or assassinate Fidel Castro. This here is the document known as Operation Northwoods that proved this would be a false flag operation. You see, this is nothing new. We've had false flag operations for over 50 years.
I mean, and that's really the definition of a false flag, is to get the people, get us to be scared to change our mind to what they really want, to manipulate our minds.
Well, that's just it. It's a conditioning process. You see, they want to set up situations to where, in the end, we're going to think it's our idea to reach out to them and say, oh, help us, we're in trouble, government, military, come in and help us, you know. That's what it's all about. is manipulation and conditioning, because once they've got that, then it's just martial law. It's just a step away from that. You saw the evidence how the Boston police SWAT teams and the military were just raiding these people's homes and just forcing them out at gunpoint, screaming at them, and just not one time was any search warrant or warrant for anyone's arrest presented. Now, I understand we did have a killer at large. Right. But the fact remains, you don't break the law to uphold the law. The law is there as our safeguard to keep everything in check. And you know, it's even more interesting. When we look at the evidence again, as it says, false flag operations, we looked at all the Illuminati cards, how they warned of these things would happen. There was one other Illuminati card I want to show you before we're done. And you tell me what you think. This is the Jihad card. Okay? Is the Illuminati behind it? But obviously, look at the capstone behind them. Now, we can tell, obviously, this is Jihad, because look at the left-hand side. That's a younger man, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The one in front is older, wearing glasses, and this is a Jihad thing, right? Right. Let's go to this next photo, and you can see in the center, with the white baseball cap, the younger man, Joker, with the old one, Tamarin, with the glasses. Maybe it's a lousy coincidence, but it's quite a coincidence. And yes, remember, they were the ones calling for jihad.
Right. I mean, it would be I would see it as a coincidence if it was one or two things that we're looking at here. But we've looked at one thing after another, and you have to come to a certain point and say, this is no longer a coincidence, but there's a fingerprint behind this.
There is so many things that's just wrong. You know, we have Jeff Bauman, you know, the guy in the wheelchair. 6 or 7 medical facts were absolutely broken by him. You know, and that's impossible. 4 major arteries cut and nothing to show for it, not a drop of blood on the ground. Sorry, not believing it. All those other people that were with him, you know, that black lady, the guy in the baseball cap, and those others that were around him, we saw how their injuries were fake. Dead people, or at least people who are supposed to be dead, were appearing in Boston. Other people who were connected to Sandy Hook, the police officers and that one lady, they were supposed to be back in Newtown, Connecticut, in Sandy Hook area. No, they suddenly appeared in Boston and in Watertown. I mean, how they got there, I don't know. We know that reports from CNN, quite a number of them, were filled with lies. Obvious events, you know, that we've been able to show through photographic documentation have been presented. We know the Illuminati cards and other Illuminati elements demonstrate that they had a direct hand in the Boston bombing. That all these events were part of a false flag operation. It's painstakingly obvious. We have to remember. Excuse me. We had bomb-sniffing dogs. We had roof spotters. National Guard units were there. Weapons of mass destruction civilian support teams were also present. The civilian military organization known as CRAFT was there. Runners, if you remember, were being told, oh, don't worry, all this here is a staged event. We're just running an exercise. Don't worry about anything that happens. And they're going to do that in the middle of one of the biggest marathon races in the world? No. That is just wrong. It doesn't make sense at all. What does make sense to me, before he died 2 years ago, someone I had known for about 25 years. His name was Ted Gunderson. He retired as the senior director of the Los Angeles Department of the FBI when he retired. Now, I had known Ted for 25 years, and he taught me just about everything there is to be taught about a false flag operation and the things you need to look for. And I haven't forgotten. I've never forgotten what Ted taught me, because when Ted was teaching me that, I was teaching him about the Illuminati, what to look out for them, everything about the Illuminati. And I can't even remember how many cases Ted called me on the phone about so I could advise him on something, or they brought me to it, you know. And I know what a false flag operation looks like. I know the elements. That's exactly what we're looking at here. And I am absolutely convinced the culprits behind this are puppets in our government who are following orders of the Illuminati.
And now that we come to the end of this, I mean, we're not trying to manipulate you into thinking a certain way. We're just trying to lay out both sides of the story. I mean, you can hear, really, as we would call it, the false flag mantra that they're telling us on CNN and other media outlets. But we're trying to show you the stuff that they're not willing to say, and we're just trying to lay it out for you that you can make your own decision.
Yes.
What's really going on behind the scenes here. And as Doc points out, we can just see the fingerprint, the calling card, whatever you want to call it, of the Illuminati, the onslaught, or the pavement to come for the New World Order.
Well, everything we saw fits in perfectly with the way they want to set up their New World Order. It was all an exercise for a martial law event.
And just in closing, we're not trying to scare you in position or anything, but we're just trying to open your eyes up. And as you learn this, as we said before, the only way you can really have joy and in your life is through God Himself. And your focus, as you're going through this, keep your focus on Him.
Amen.
So you're not going to become angry, so you're not going to become hopeless, because your joy comes from the Lord and your hope comes from the Lord as well.